Well, hello, everybody. Great to be here today and have all of you join us. Good to see Anna and Leanna, and Vicky is here with us as well. I'd like to just have them say hello before we get started with today's episode. Karen won't be here today. She's had to jump in and teach a class at this time. So I'm going to be hosting today. I look forward to seeing Karen again in the near future, maybe a couple of weeks, but we'll do our best to keep things rolling. So how are you today, Anna?
I'm okay. Looking forward to being back on the panel, and we'll see how the day goes.
Yes, great. Well, it's wonderful to have you. I'm glad you're all here. Have my friends with me to help us look at our traits today of 14 and the 43. And Vicky, would you like to say hello as well?
Hi, everyone from Western Australia, where the sun is just starting to rise and it's beautiful this morning. So I'm enjoying that.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Thanks for setting the mood for us. And Leanna, you're also down under. How's it looking at your house?
Yep, Sydney weather forecast, blue skies. Glad to be here.
Great to have you. Thanks for joining. Well, today's episode is looking at trait 43 and 14, which is the fuel to empower a breakthrough. So let's jump in and take a look. So November is really, we looked at this last week, an alertness to our own self-expression, allowing us to break through to our own power and focus. And today we'll be looking at trait 43. But the last couple of weeks have been about, trait 44, which was coming to meet the personnel manager. This is about having an intuitive sense of what people need in order to progress. And last week we looked at creative self-expression and in the trait 1, that creativity rooted in your own unique direction, and how that we had quite a few ones and twos last week in the whole design, and that was really putting a focus on creative self-expression and direction. We still have these in the past and future direction, so not quite as strong as it was last week, but still there and still an important part of what's happening in this month. So this week is all about the 43, the breakthrough, and that's been going on all week. The insight and being able to listen to your own inner voice. This is about having your own inner insights and learning how to, having just creatively expressed ourselves, what insights did we maybe pick up from having a focus on our direction and our self-expression. And at the end of this week, we change into the power skills, trait 14, which is a possession in great measure, which is the fuel to empower. And we're going to look at that today, how that's really where the treasure comes from of getting access to our energy resource. And our later on in the month, we'll be looking at like next week or the week after will be all about our own personal power then. So not only being able to access our treasure and having the fuel to empower ourselves, but how do we actually power ourselves with unconditional power, our own personal power? How do we tap into that, the 34 of our own personal power? And finally, near the end of the month, we'll be looking at the details. So the taming of the small, this is the energy for detail. This is really about focusing, being able to focus on the detail. And I'm looking at what Karen's got highlighted here too. So our conscious core essence, this is it. The focus for this week is on the 43, but we've also in our communication and values, the 14 is showing up here. So, we may be finding that the 14, which is about accessing our own treasure, our own power, our own finances, about the ability to attract finances. We'll see more about that when we get to the 14 today. But before we dive into that, I'm just wondering if Leanna or Vicky or Anna, if there's anything coming to you about the fact that we've got the 43 and the 14 kind of working together right now already in the ability to communicate, which I feel like I'm stumbling through today, but also is something that we're going to be valuing right now, that the being able to access our own treasure, our own power, is of something of real value right now, here and now, today, and in this week. I'm not sure how long this lasts. I didn't look ahead at that, but it may be here for a little bit. And so, just wondering if Anna, is there anything that you're triggered or comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I'll jump in. To me, it's quite interesting to have the 43 and the 14 sort of operating at the same time, because so much about breakthrough is really listening to yourself, your own inner voice. And that, to me, is very much a part of the 14, because if you don't listen to your own inner spirit life, your own awareness, your own consciousness, your voice doesn't speak. And that's, the 14 is about finances, it's about resources. And so your inner voice is really key to your resources. That's what I would have to say.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's a really great connection to, because we're all in this center empowering circuitry as well, where this whole next few weeks is really all about empowering ourselves and really listening to our own inner voice, our inner instincts, our inner insight, to be able to access our power. Yeah, I think that's great. Thanks, Anna. Anything, Vicki or Leanna, that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I'm having a brilliant week of personal insights and breakthroughs and aha moments that it's like everything's been waiting until now to drop in, because obviously now is the time for it to become conscious. So I've been really enjoying that.
Awesome. That's so wonderful for you to be able to observe all these changes that happen in the monthly cycle, especially, and how they're more maybe present for you being an evaluator. Thanks, Vicki. And Leanna, I think you might have this
Yes.
strength. Do you? Yes.
Oh, I do. It's my only strength. Like my only complete strength. Yeah, just tapping onto what Vicki and Anna have said. Listening to your inner voice, not your mind. Listening to your inner voice, the resonance, for the alignment with the correct way to be making money. And then with what Vicki said, hilarious this week, and just inviting people to notice that if their field around them is dropping in things this week, that is then gifting them with the breakthrough. Because I actually had that. I was toing and froing on something with a professional role. And then there was a movement within the team that it was like the drop. It was like, I know exactly what I need to do. And for me, it's actually a move. But it was the breakthrough, the clarity, because you could be going back, forth, but this week, the 43 can support us to have that breakthrough where the clarity is there. And there's peace, there's a peacefulness with it.
Wonderful to have been able to be aware of and notice that happening for you too. That's awesome. Thanks, Leanna. So let's have a look at our theme. Let's take a closer look at what the 43 is really all about. It really is about this insight of listening to your own inner voice. And I love how you pointed that out, Leanna. It's not about what your head's telling you, but that own still, quiet inner voice that comes from somewhere beyond the mind chatter. It's about spontaneously transforming inner knowing into a unique insight and a perspective that can also mold your awareness into a new structure that can benefit others. because this is also a projected channel. So it needs to be an advisor channel. It needs to be recognized and invited before you can actually share your insight. It's also one of the traits of deafness. Nothing is more difficult for you than to listen to and really hear others. And this is on purpose because it's a protection from undue influence to your own inner voice, your own unique inner understanding. So while people may think you're not really listening, that's purposeful. Insights must first be invited by others to bring the possibility of your new perspective out into the world. Again, being recognized first as perhaps having a unique insight and being asked to share. That'll be when it is when it has the greatest impact for people and when others can actually take it in and can listen to it. So with that, it contains this fear of rejection, that if you can't articulate and explain your awareness rationally, it can cause some real mental anxieties. How do I take this unique insight I just had and put it into words? And how do I wait for somebody to first invite me to put that into words? But even once I'm invited, how do I actually get it into the words that people can actually understand the fullness of the actual insight? It takes real fortitude to stand behind and explain these insights that might seem freakish and completely outside the norm, because often they are. This strength is called the genius freak strength, in that the unique insights come, but if you're not recognized and invited to share those insights, or if you can't find the words to clearly describe them, they can sound really off the wall or really out in left field and have a challenging time connecting with others with it. So while it's the beauty of this unique knowing is an incredible insights to have, actually communicating can be quite a challenge. So just wondering, I know, Leanna, you've got this full strength. Vicki or Anna, do you have either side of this? Not for Anna. And Vicki, you have the 43 right now. Do you have the 23 by any chance?
No, I've got the 43 as my unconscious driving force.
Oh, awesome.
So
So you've got doubly
I'm
strong.
more celebrating the grounding at the moment. So
I see. Yes. So right now the 23 is in the grounding and settling that in. So maybe, do you want to say a little more about that?
well, it's unconscious, so I never know when it's going to come as a knowing. And as Leanna said, it is very much an embodied knowing and not a mental knowing. Yeah, not sure what else to say about it. I was in a class earlier and I noticed that both evaluators were the chatty ones today. So I thought that was quite something. Obviously, we're hooked in to the transit.
That's so fascinating. So you've right now got definition in your conceptualization and communication and action. That must feel very different than what you're normally experiencing. So wonderful to have that. And I have to say, I feel like I'm stumbling through everything myself. I don't have either of these, but I have felt the impact of them this week as well, in that I've been able to focus a lot better than I usually do. And I think maybe the reason I'm stumbling over my words is I'm having a challenge getting my thoughts into appropriate words to explain things. So Leanna, please tell me how you do this all the time.
Well, you're not stumbling, first of all. There's some feedback.
Okay.
Not, but I get it. I know what you mean. Like certain times of the different traits, it's like, we feel that isn't it amazing? The traits really do activate different things in us. Like sometimes on a live, I've just got nothing. Like I'm just listening to you all and I'm not really, it's fascinating. Is it like, I just won't feel it or I'll stumble through, as you say. But 43 for me it's just the word knowing. Like it's just knowing. Like there's the moment that the knowing, like the breakthrough, is the solidness, when that final puzzle piece, when we're walking through life and there's different things catching our awareness, or they're in process or in movement, but it's when that final piece lands, and in that moment of inner clarity is the breakthrough. Because we're so often, and that's why our decision making strategies are so profound, because we are always in flux in some way. There's always, we're in living process. So there's always movement, and there's lots of pockets of confusion, hence why and there's lots of pockets of waiting. So hence why our decision-making strategy is so unreal, is so great, is so supportive, is because it allows us to hold and to trust and have faith when we don't have the moment of breakthrough, because the moment of breakthrough it's a real gift, right? Because then it's just one answer. So for me, there's no toing and froing, and I do have a real deafness to people. Like, it's not my fault. it's an embodied thing. I just have the knowing, and it's funny because my friends or colleagues give me feedback that they enjoy when I'm vulnerable, because I'm often in a very knowing state, but it makes sense as well. I'd love to talk to someone else who has the 43-23 and no other strength. That it is it almost is like a solidness, but at the same time, I do understand the freakish, explaining insights that are freakish and outside the norm. I am very aware of that. There is a fortitude here, because can be a little bit of a loneliness, or I know that people aren't understanding what I'm seeing or feeling. But I'm sort of okay with it, because it's solid, because it's in me. So yeah.
It feels real, like fully embodied, as Vicky was
it's
saying.
embodied. Yeah. And it's quite personal too. It's quite personal. So I don't have the expectation that people understand. And usually what happens is I have to keep saying things over and over for if they matter to me, then eventually it's not catch up, but it's almost like then I break through into other people. But I'll have to, and as a psychotherapist as well, I'll keep saying things over and over to people to break through. So I'm, in a way, it's very consistent with this.
And that's what this,
because it's just one thing.
Yes. Your consistent strength that you can always rely on.
Yeah. But then I'm looking also with the fear of rejection. And if you can't articulate and explain your awareness rationally, you can experience mental anxiety. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm sure that would be true. I'm just at the moment, just how I feel this is that the people around me, oh, you know why? Oh my goodness. This is a big one. I've just got a really big download. Okay. So I'm lucky because I have chosen to keep people around me who recognize me and invite me to share my wisdom. So when I share it, even if they don't always get it, it is received. Even if they're not fully getting it, they know that they allow me to somehow imprint or activate them. Even if in the moment they're not quite understanding my words, but they get it. They get me. Now I'm aware this week that someone was bringing to me an experience of where they have turned against themselves because the field around them is not recognizing them or inviting them. So then they now have turned against their own inner knowing because it's not getting invited. And in fact, they're even being told, you're wrong about who you are. You're wrong about what you think. You're wrong about your experience. So I've actually watched that this week, and I hadn't even put it to the 43, which is when you don't have, and that's why, again, BG5, again, the decision-making strategy, knowing your design, understanding what you need, and then cultivating those relationships around you so that you can be received. Because I've seen what's happening for this person when their field is not responsive to their knowing, and it's very painful. And I know it's been painful for me in the past as well when I haven't had the support.
Wow.
I'd
Wow.
love to speak to that. That's beautiful, Leanna.
Yes. Yes. Go ahead, Anna.
My daughter has the 43 without the 23, and she experiences just what you explained a lot. She doubts herself. There's a lot of anxiety. Brilliant, brilliant. But one thing I'd like to mention is, like when you said you just had a download, the breakthrough can't be pushed. And that's the difference between the mental, the mind versus the organic process of the 43. And I've noticed, she'll try to explain something or say something that seems so bizarre. And yet if I listen to her long enough, I get all the snippets of what she's trying to articulate, because she can articulate very well once she's had the field, because again, this is a projected strength. They need to be listened to or heard or hear themselves. And so the need to articulate and say something out loud to someone that's not going to invade, that's going to create an environment where they can speak and sort of experience what their genius is, what the thread of the information that wants to come out is. The need to be invited can be overt or very subtle. It can just be the space that says, I'm going to listen to you, or, what did you say? I'd like to hear more about that. Something like that. The invitational energy that says, yeah, say more. That can be said in words or just in energy. Because I find not only, it is naturally a trait of deafness, because you don't want the outside influence. You want to be able to hear yourself. But without the 23, sometimes it's muteness as well. Like you were saying, Shelley, just a minute about stumbling through. I agree. I don't think you're stumbling through, but that experience that you were trying to speak to, sometimes you can't get all those words out. They don't connect yet. It's not something you can force. It's something that has to kind of round out, fill out in its own timing. And it's fascinating to me to see my daughter work through that with just the 43. And then I have a good friend that has the whole strength. And he still needs that environment. At first, he can't explain something, but we'll talk or whatever. I'll say, invite him to say more. And then all of a sudden, there's this like roll that just starts happening. And it's like, oh, I get what you're saying. Oh, because it is really frequency related. It's not always in the words, like Leanna was saying. It's the information is sort of in the breakthrough is in the certainly in the words, but the energy behind the words.
Wow, that's awesome, Anna. Thanks for adding that, because I have quite a few family members with the full strength. My daughter's one of them, and my husband the other, and I have a sister, and part of throughout my whole family, people have one side or the other of this. And so I see it play out a lot. And I really love what you said about remembering that this is a recognized and invited trait, and that people with this need to be listened to. Because often my husband and we just had an argument last night about that. I was trying to get him to listen to me, and he just wanted to give me his unique insights. So wanted me to listen to him. So it was quite a bounce back and forth as we sorted that out. But it really, really helps to have that clarified, that this is people with this need the space to get the words out. And what I was actually feeling was a very internal experience getting started here. I feel internally like I'm stumbling, trying to find the words. Might not sound like that coming out of my mouth, but it's an internal knowing, internal experience happening. And it's very much so for people who have this strength, very much that internal embodied knowingness. So I don't know if anyone else in.
Can I add one more piece?
Sure, yeah.
To segue with what Leanna said, and
Mhm.
in this, when you talked about embodied, it is a very solid, once you land on it, there's nothing that can break that. But before you land in that energy, there's, I guess, the experience of uncertainty, or like you said, something going on inside where you don't feel quite right. You're still fumbling or whatever the experience is, even if it's not demonstrated out loud, or that sense when you finally land on whatever that bit of genius is, you're very empowered, you're very solid, you do have the ground. There's just nothing anybody can say. But before that, the fear of rejection does activate. Like, oh, I'm sort of failing here, or somebody doesn't understand, whatever the monkey mind, the fears are, you feel sort of wobbly or out of place. And I only know that secondhand through my daughter, having spoken to all that. But once that's landed, that's a whole different energy, and it is very empowering, grounding, solid, like Leanna said.
Yeah, right. Yep. Like, I know, and nothing can knock you off your knowing. Yes, I love that. Thanks so much, Anna, for adding that, and Leanna and Vicky. Adding your perspectives are brilliant and really help us understand what this strength and trait is all about. I'm wondering if there's anybody here with us today who's got either the 43 or 23 that wants to add anything. Lori. Welcome, Lori.
Hello. I have the 23, not the 43. And what I experience is that I have a knowing as well, but it's coming more from synthesizing what has happened, let's say in a conversation, even like today, without that, maybe without the breakthrough. But there is a problem of timing, and I do experience that I have a feeling of having a golden nugget I have to share. And I feel my pulse starts going faster, like I start getting more energy when I want to express that, coming from, I have a defined throat expression. And it's almost like my blood is shaking and I have to say something, which is a synthesis of a number of ideas. And it sometimes requires, because it happens so fast, that pulse just comes. In order to get it out, I'll either have to interrupt, or by the time I want to, appropriate time, the space in the conversation comes, it's the opening to say it has already passed. So that's the other side of it. I end up, if I'm in a group meeting, let's say, many times I'll have to just write an email afterwards because I can't find the right timing to say the breakthrough idea. And it's especially strong that now with the 43 being activated. And I often find that because I've taken more time to coalesce my idea when I write it afterwards, and perhaps because the other people have more time to absorb it or assimilate it from the 23, that the idea does get accepted, whereas it might just be passed over if I say it, because the timing, maybe the invitation isn't quite correct. So I experience that end of the polarity that way.
Wow. Yeah. Thanks. That's really helpful to, and especially the 23 being in the communication center, that pressure to speak would be really strong. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. I just see Daphne's got her hand up. Daphne, have you got the 43 or the 23?
Okay, yeah. I've got both. That's my only strength. I've got
Oh, wow.
43 and 23. And actually, I agree with I haven't got much to add to everything that has been said. I experienced it all, but I did want to say something about the trait of deafness.
Mm,
Found myself many times, and especially one example, I was listening to a lecture about, I don't know what it was, the brain or something like that. And then the lecturer started with details of an aspect that just didn't interest me. I fell asleep for a few minutes, and at the moment that this was finished, I was up in there again. And it was amazing because it was sort of an inner knowing of what I want to hear and what I don't want to hear. And many times when I do things, I suddenly fade away, I disappear, and then at a certain moment I come back.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's a whole new description of selective hearing, isn't it? We can see how this strength can really be seen as that, as selective hearing, as people tuning in and tuning out, with that inner knowing of knowing what's really important for you to listen to. Thanks, Daphna. It's great to have you here today. And so I'm going to go on then and let's look at how we get affected when you're connected. So Lori spoke a little bit to this already on the shadow trait of the 43. This is having the 23, but not the 43. So this can sometimes be a lack of confidence in what you say and know. So do you feel your timing is off when you're speaking? Or do you feel that others might not understand what you're trying to express? The problem is you might have mental anxiety about what you say, may not be clear or maybe misunderstood or rejected. You might find it difficult to speak with the right timing and end up being dismissed as a freak. So the solution is you're designed to work with others who can help you conceptualize what you want to say and when to say it so your ideas are well received and understood by others. And so, Lori, you spoke to this already in realizing that with just the 23, sometimes the timing for you to actually speak up isn't right. And what you've found is that if you take time and go away and put your thoughts down, that timing ends up being a better timing for people to receive what you've said. And do you think that, I think you also mentioned that it gave you a bit of time to ponder your idea a little bit more and get a clearer way to explain it. So that's exactly how this dynamic works. Is there anything else you wanted to add, or?
Yeah, I can add that. I can't tell you how many times people have said to me, you should really wait till tomorrow to say that, or, you should wait, I'll share my idea with somebody else. So yeah, I do suffer from that. And even in this, I spoke before you got to when you're how you get affected when you're connected. My timing was a little premature. So my apologies. I thought we were going to, talk about both this traits, both ends of the strength. But I often also find that I will know something before others are ready to hear it. And it's almost as if I feel like, their survival depends on them knowing something, and they just can't hear it. Like I'll say, look up, there are chemtrails in the sky, and they'll say, oh, no, those are just normal contrails, something like that. And I think they have to know this. And so without the 43, or maybe even with the 43, there's a sense of people not being ready to hear an insight. And with the 23, it's similar to the 43. There is a sense of an inner somehow knowing, or at the moment anyway, one thinks that they do know. Maybe it's not as pressing to others. I generally find that my sense of perspective, can be exaggerated, and I think that something's more important than other people might think. So that maybe is part of the whole strength, or maybe without the 43 that occurs.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's such a great example, Lori. And I love that you jumped in early, because it's a perfect example of how the 23 functions, is that you had a knowing and wanted to share something, and your timing is just probably likely just a little bit ahead of others around you. And it's part of the way this trait functions. The thing that brings to mind for me is I remember somewhere along the line in learning all the BG5 stuff, that having the inner knowing, and being able to just have it for yourself, and then waiting for someone to come and ask you for it. It's kind of like the message is only for the people who come and ask you for it. So even though you may feel that real pressure to communicate this great, exciting inner knowing you have that would be wonderful and you want to share it with everybody, it's maybe not for everyone. And it's the message that you have to share, or the insight you have to share, is only for the people who invite you to share it. It was meant for them to hear it. And the way you'll know it's meant for them is they're the ones who've asked you for it. So I kind of always think of this as having like a secret message. And it reminds me of like a video game, or some kind of a fantasy sort of game where you've got to go to a specific person to collect your message, and that you're just the holder of the messages, and the one who has the unique knowing to be shared when the right person the right player in the game comes and asks you for that information. So that's just the way I've wrapped my head around understanding these unique moments that we have, and how they can be, the timing of them can be understood a little bit better.
I'd like
Does that make sense?
speak to that. Yeah, it makes
Sure.
good sense. But I'd like to speak to that as an innovator. I experienced that kind of, I wouldn't say it's off or premature, because you put something in the field. And yeah, the message is picked up by whoever needs it. But just personally, my experience was not about you jumping the gun or any of that. That to me, it made a whole lot of sense in our conversation. But to me, that's an example of sort of the rejection that you start to realize, maybe I did, whatever. And you start to kind of get influenced by the environment of whether you were right or wrong, or off or on, or whatever. And that's more the static from sort of not quite tuning into your decision-making strategy. Because there's a subtle timing. I don't know what your strategy is, but some people say something right in the moment and there's nothing wrong with it. But if you don't get the feedback that what you said is validated, then you can kind of get wobbly. But if you actually feel right about it, and people miss it, or it was a little off, or whatever, it's just floating in the field, and somebody will pick it up at the right time. So it's to me, it's the whole process of the breakthrough or the shadow has to do with being in sync with your inner voice. And that leads you to, that's not separate from your decision-making strategy. If you're just following your decision-making strategy, nothing goes wrong, even if what you expected didn't happen.
Right. Awesome. Thanks for adding that, Anna. And I certainly, hope that I wasn't making you feel rejected, Lori. That was just another perspective. But I love what you've said too, Anna, because I really think the decision-making strategy, what it all comes down to, if it's the right timing, your decision-making strategy will let you know when the right timing to share it is. Did you have some? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say that what you both have said resonates, that these insights with the 23 anyway feels there's such enthusiasm, and it's like the world needs to know this. Yet, like you said, Shelley, it's only certain people that when they ask, and so there's that aspect. But also, Anna, what you said about sometimes just dropping it into the field is important as well. So there's a balance in there.
Yes. Thank you so much. That's great. And we've got trait 14 to look at today as well. So thanks so much. It's great conversation around this. We're looking at what's coming up for next week. Is moving on to the 14 of the power skills. And this we're seeing as the treasure. We talk about this a lot in OC 16. This is the treasure, which is the possession in great measure, which is the fuel to empower. And this is the fuel that gets everything, allows everything to actually happen. It's the accumulation and retention of power and wealth through skilled interaction, coupling grace with control. It's the potential to empower the directions of others through the distribution of the available resources. So this is the management of resources in order to empower others to support creativity, charitable activities, or leaders with a vision for our future. It's about using the resources wisely. So just throwing money at anything and everyone is a poor way to invest valuable resources. So it can be stingy and hold on to the wealth if it can't see a vision for it and doesn't see a logical way for the money to be a contribution to the world. It can just say, no, I'm not going to put the money out there. I'm not going to share the wealth. It's the main energy source of both the small and large groups. It is in this small team, the BG5, it's about capacity and having capacity as a team. And in the larger organization, it's all about managing and controlling the finances. And there's quite a lot more to this in terms of how the 14 can eventually release the treasure. And there's a lot of information those with the 14 will need in order to be able to put the, sorry, hang on a second, my mouse wobbled. In order to convince the 14 to put the money towards a particular direction. There's a whole chain of events that happens in order to allow the 14 to empower those kinds of decisions. So, and it's grounded by the 8, which is all about making a contribution. So, and in this week, I think it's on Friday, tomorrow or Friday that this changes. No, today's Tuesday. It'll be Thursday. We move to the 14. So, does anyone here have the 14 or the other side, the 2? I have the 2, but I don't have the 14. Anna, have you got either of these?
I have the 2. I do not have the 14.
Okay.
My son has the 14. And it's, let's see, how would I say? There is sort of a possessiveness in this, and it's a rightful. I mean, it's correct. You can use it incorrectly, but what I've discovered, when it says possession of great measure, it's actually the holding power or the possession of possibility that's really the resource. And the other word that captures me here is distribution, because there's plenty of resources everywhere, whether it's water, food, money, relationships, whatever the stuff is, whatever the thing is that you're wanting. The real energy has to do with distribution, where, and I think about something like acupuncture or polarity or something like in your body, the energy in your body. And when you're getting an acupuncture treatment, let's say, it's not that the energy isn't there, it's just that the distribution is what's creating your discomfort or your disease or whatever it is. There's too much energy one place in a certain form and not enough energy in a certain form and yet in another place. So really what you're doing, whether you're a therapist or an acupuncturist or whatever modality you're using, or you're a funder, or venture capitalist, it's all a similar energy of distribution. Where is the power? Where is the energy possessed now? And where does it want to be? Where is it most useful? And to me, that's what the real power part of this is, the skill to see the distribution potential here. Because, just throwing energy around, money around, food around, whatever it is, it doesn't necessarily go to the hungry people if you're just throwing food around. It's knowing who's hungry for this, or who's needing this, or where the balance is, how to get one thing, whatever the resource is, to the people that need it. And I find that that's where the real empowerment, the power of this skill really is.
Yeah, thanks for laying that out, Anna. That makes perfect sense. And really, the distribution needs to have a direction and a defined direction, and that's where the 2 on the other side works with it. But really the 14 can operate on its own, and in order for the 14 to be able to distribute the resources, it needs to be able to have a whole lot of things lined up, an inspired idea, the ability for the 4323 comes into play with this whole center empowering channel, or strength is that it has to have a unique or genius idea and a logical and efficient plan in order for the 14 to be able to see where the money could go or the resource can be distributed. And because that is the way things happen unconsciously, often people with the 14 can be seen as stingy and holding on to their wealth. But ultimately, it's about the people who are trying to get the resource from them to be able to present them with all of those pieces so that they can use their decision-making strategy in order to say yes or no to releasing the resources in that direction. So it's really been fascinating learning the details of that in the OC 16 course. So I'm just wondering, does anybody else here have the 14 or know anybody who does? I can speak to this a bit. My husband has the full strength, the 214, and I have the 2. And so we have often over the years, it's funny, I used to try to manage the money in our relationship. I did it for 25 years as we were raising our children, and I did a pretty good job with what we were working with. But once we retired, I just passed it all over to him, and man, he's way better than I am. And it's such a relief for me to just allow him to do it, because he and I give him my vision and input on the direction I think our resources should go. And he has the full strength. So he listens to my direction and or my vision and input. And it just feels so much more solid having him, because I know it takes more to convince him that the money should go somewhere than it does me. I can go, yeah, let's go in this direction. And I don't know, I'll find the money somewhere for it. Because I don't have the 14, I'll just conjure it up. But for him, he's much more realistic. It's like, no, here's the resources. This is what we have. Here's where you say you want it to go. Let's figure out how to get that to happen. So it's a much stronger, I feel the strength that he has in doing that. So is there anybody else you'd like to share about the 14?
Can I add some stuff, Shelley?
Sure, that would be fantastic, Vicki.
I have the 14 twice in unusualness. And I find especially as an evaluator, I'm the one in the group at work saying, okay, there's a certain number of people here with, a limited resource of time and energy to focus on different things. And I'm always the one going, well, what's the priority and what are we trying to achieve? And I feel it comes from the 14 of, you know, trying to understand the direction and trying to ration the limited resources. So yeah, what you were saying about your husband tied in beautifully about, you know, being able to put it all together and you know, find the best and most efficient use of it, which is sort of echoed in that individual stream with the 2343 and efficiency. So yeah.
That's beautiful, Vicky. Thank you. And like you were saying, as Anna was mentioning, it's not always money. It can be anything. It can be the energy of a team, the resources we have in terms of the people to do the work. And yeah, I would guess for certain that your 14 is that. And do you find that's like a body sense for you too? That's just something you know in your inner knowing that this is something to pay attention to, that we can't just willy-nilly put everybody on every project. There's too much work to do, and we need to really kind of focus and prioritize our resources more wisely.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just that, you know, objective knowing that, and it almost takes a while for everyone else to catch up, and I have to make sure we've talked it through 100 times usually.
That's a perfect example of that. Exactly. Because without the two, and we're going to have a look at this next, how we get affected when you're connected. So if you have the two, but not the 14, this is about the lack of resources to fulfill your vision. So do you feel you lack the resources you need to fulfill your vision? Or do you feel guilty asking for help? So the two is all about vision and direction and being able to see where to go and know what you want to do, but you don't actually have any resources behind you to actually get it done. So it can leave you scrambling. So you may have a vision and think you have to make it happen all by yourself. That's another thing. You get frustrated because you don't have the resources or the energy to do it all by yourself. You can feel exhausted doing it all by yourself. You can feel guilty accepting resources from others. You can feel, you can work hard, but feel that you're getting nowhere because your vision is so big. So big vision, not necessarily the energy to back it up and not necessarily the resources to get it done. So it's the kind of the opposite, where the 14, when you have the 14 without vision or direction, part of why the 14 appears stingy is because it's afraid to let go of the resources if there isn't some clear focal point for them or clear direction or vision. But it can also work the other way in an unhealthy way. It can be throwing money at anything that comes along because you don't know what the vision actually is. So for the two, it's the other way around, having this great big vision, but not being able to know how to get the money for it and feeling like you need to just do it all by yourself, don't want to ask for help. There is a special dynamic between the 2 and the 14 when you get to learn about that in the OC16 as well. So with the 2, you can be a visionary with a plan for a new way forward, but you're not here to provide the resources to make it happen. So you need to find the ally with the power and the resources you need to bring your vision into reality. So the 2 is really here to work with the rest of the empowerment channel in order to help the 14 understand where and when to release the resources. Oh, thanks, Leanna. Leanna's got to run. Thanks for being here. We've gone a little over because we have 2 traits today. But is there anyone, Anna, you've got the 2. Do you want to speak to us?
To me, this is fascinating because I've been on both sides of this. I do have the 2. I have great vision, and especially again, being an innovator, they have vision forward. And as an innovator, you have to make a move through total faith sometimes. You don't know where the resources are. So I've had life experience over the decades of having a great vision and plenty of money, having a vision, no money, having money and no vision. I mean, the whole
Every combination.
set of coordinates here. And over the years, and being a collaborator by nature, by design, you know, I was brought up with the influence of do it yourself, do it all yourself, da 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 da. So being finding BG5 and having these different things confirmed, affirmed, like, oh, thank you. I don't have to do all this myself. It's freed up the attraction for the 14. And I want to address this idea of lacking resources. That's probably one of the most profound discoveries I've made is there is, like I said earlier, there's resources everywhere. There's no lack of resources. It's the framework or the infrastructure or the distribution, whatever it is, the energy that says I have to do it myself, or all the shadow stuff that talks you out of knowing there's resources. In my meditation this morning, I was fussing about something, a deadline, and I thought, oh, forget it. The energy is here. I don't have to worry about this. I know what I'm thinking and doing. Other people were in conversation. This is forming. Sometimes it's not clear what the physical energy is, but when you have the vision and you allow resources to come to you, they do. And there's no lack, but it's that resistance, that fear that the resources aren't going to be there that stalls them out.
Wow. Thank you for saying that, Anna. That's so true. Just an insight I had as you were talking was that the resources really are everywhere. It's about our ability to attract them or not. And those shadows get in the way of us. We put up static instead of, like you said this morning, just relax, sink into being yourself, realize you've got the vision, the resources are there, and allow them to come to you. Allow yourself to attract them naturally, because that's how all of this really works. Amazing. Thank you for that. And Rami,
there is timing. There is timing to it.
Yes, right. The time, and it's about the waiting, isn't it? It's about just relaxing and trusting and recognizing that even when you're wanting the resources to show up right now because you think you need them right now, it's about relaxing and realizing that you can focus on just what the vision is and kind of play with that and get excited about it. That the timing, the resources will show up in the exact timing that you actually need them in. If you're not worried about missing them. I think that wanting them is what sets up the resistance that pushes it away, that keeps it from you when you let go of the wanting and just imagine the vision happening, that you are better aligned to pull the resources you need to you. Fantastic. And this week may be a good week for us to draw resources to ourselves. So Rami, I think you said you have the 2, but not the 14 again. What would you like to share with us?
Can you hear me?
Go. Yes, now we can. Yeah.
Okay. I just had so many times to laugh this evening from beginning to now. And yes, I have got the 2, and I always have really, for me, it's the second time I'm with you, and there are so many insights. They give so many ahas for me, because I'm just grateful or thankful for it, because I have so many big visions, but then I always feel the feeling, oh, there is nothing, there is lacking the means for finding a way to bring it into the world. But now just to listen, it's just great because, yeah, I just learned to trust and to go with the flow.
Wonderful.
Because earlier in my life, it worked fine. And once I stepped out to it, I just thought I would like to go there. I would like to do that. And then once on a sudden, I was there. And then somewhere I lost it, but now I'm just regaining it. And now it's very much the time to stand up. And and there are so many insights.
Wow. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Romy. It's so funny how, the times in our life that we think back to where things did flow, where things did fall into place for us. And often it's because we weren't trying to make it happen. We just let it be. And it seemed easy and magical. And we think somehow we get stuck in our heads and think that we should have to go out and just make that happen when we want it to, when if we're just being relaxed and enjoying our lives and going with the flow, things line up for us and fall into place. So,
and I'd like to add something about allies in the solution here.
Yes.
We all have our fractal. We all have our people that we relate to us and built on frequency. And if you remember the core energy of your design, we're designed to interact with others. So if you relax into that, of course, people that you need will come to you. And somebody needs you and you need them. And that's how that works. When you actually sort of surrender into your design, you use your decision-making strategy, and you do your best at your experiment with it. It's not perfect. It's not, a right or wrong, but it is the nature for all of us to have allies, to have our dream come true, to have the support we need, have the empowerment we need, whatever it is.
Yes. Thanks so much for pointing that out, Anna, because that is so true that's what this is all about. If we were only meant to be here doing everything by ourselves, we would be the only one on the planet. But we're not. There's 8 billion of us here for a good reason. We are all here to interact. And the magic of understanding the mechanics of BG5 is just brilliant. And I'm 5 years into practicing and playing with this, and things are really starting to fall into place. And I'm really recognizing just how important those interaction and dynamics are. And as we kind of shed the conditioning and the thoughts and the shadows we've been brought up with, it frees us up to be able to truly interact in a way that's beneficial for all of us. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. We've gone a little over time and having 2 traits. It's always hard to, skip over this. They're so juicy. We want to dive into all of it. So thanks for hanging with us. So if you're not sure what your design is and you want to get your free report, you can visit our website and also sign up for the theme of the day. That'll give you the notification of what the theme is, the background energy is for every day. We've also got past episodes of our BG5 Live in our free resources library. And we've got our upcoming courses. We're just putting our courses up for January now. So you'll be able to check those out. We've got foundation and certification, and mostly foundation and certification starting in January. So check those out. And I think I'll go to our panel then to see how each of you, what you'd like to help each of us focus on for the rest of the next couple of days with the 43, and then into the next week of the 14. Anna, would you like to start?
Let's see. Between the two of them, the 43 and the 14, I would say the theme is similar in that when you have the concept that you have allies, when you're living in your design, you know that the things will come to you, whatever needs to. You break through your that foundation that Leanna was talking about, that solidness, that breakthrough energy, even though it might be hit and miss for a little while, it'll come. Same with the resources. When you don't create extra static, when you're not creating interference by all the monkey mind and fears, I mean, fears are going to be activated. That's fine. There's nothing wrong. But if we're listening to the scary part of the fear, then that creates static. If we listen to our fear as a message, that creates the ability to use our decision-making strategy. So baseline, our breakthrough, or our resources are always trying to come to us, if we do our best at experimenting with not interfering with our design.
Wonderful, Anna. Thank you. Wonderful summary of paying attention and staying connected to our decision making and feeling our empowerment coming to us this week. Thanks, Anna. How about you, Lori?
I would say maybe the common theme between the 43 and 14 would be to really decide how we want to use our mental, emotional, physical, material resources during the coming week.
Beautiful. Very succinct. I love it. Thank you. And Rami, is there anything you'd like to say?
I'm fine, thanks.
Okay, great, wonderful. Thanks for joining us today and adding your information and experiences. So wonderful. I love this this coming week. So filled with personal empowerment this whole month, being able to really tap into and pay attention to our own deep inner knowing, realizing that the 43 and the 14 are showing up for us this week to enable us to have those unique insights that will perhaps even draw the correct resources to us as we're doing our best to just relax and let go and live our design and let life come to us. And most importantly, paying attention to our decision-making strategy to help guide us through. So thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here this week, and we'll see you all next week. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.